Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. We give it a minute to pop up, and then we will introduce what we're doing. We have a full house tonight.
The more you see of the world,
It's going to be
the
fun.
more it rewards you. With every journey you take,
Yes,
you
it
unlock
is.
I
points for states,
I always like
airline
pull it up in my
miles,
other tab.
experiences.
So I'm like,
You
okay,
can never trust it.
I know. Other tab. Oh, here we go. We're good. We're good. We're up. Okay. Hi, everybody. How's it going? So we have a full house here tonight to talk about DNFing. Thank you, everybody, for agreeing to join me so last minute. I think it's going to be fun. Beth, shortly is the only way I can do anything. Okay, so a little bit of an intro, and then we'll kind of start the conversation. This was inspired by one of the topics in the latest community video that Jess Owens did. For anybody who didn't know, there was an article in the UK Independent talking about a novelist, of course they were a novelist, who made this comment basically saying that it's an insult to authors to not finish every book you start. And you know, like basically it's the whole thing like against DNFing, that it's not a thing you should do, that it's okay to like want to throw a book around the room, but if you don't finish the book, you're never going to know how you really feel about it. So I was like, let's talk about this, because I feel like we've got people have a variety of opinions and approaches to how we do our reading. For anybody who doesn't know, DNFing stands for did not finish, choosing not to finish a book at some point into it for whatever reason. So we're gonna talk about this. So if everybody wants to go around, this is going to be an interesting round because there's a lot of us, but we'll do like a snake thing or something. But if everybody wants to like introduce themselves and quick kind of introduction to, do you DNF? How frequently? What are your like quick initial thoughts on it? Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather from Hand Booktubes. I'm a romance booktuber. I DNF all the time for any reason at any point that I feel like I have a lot of strong opinions about it. I already have a video about it, but I'm firmly on team DNF.
Hi, I'm Erica from The Broken Spine, and I read a bunch of different things. I haven't done a review in a while, but that's neither here nor there at this moment. I believe in DNFing. Hashtag Team DNF.
Okay. Brandy.
Hey everyone, I'm Brandy from Books of Brandy Shanae. I read pretty much everything to fantasy to romance, what have you. Literally this year I just started DNFing. I used to not like to DNF, but I got to the point where if I am 50% in the book and nothing has grasped my attention, then I'm just going to DNF. So Team DNF for me.
All right. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, no. I don't know if it's the microphone. No. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. If you go into like cam mic settings, you should be able to like adjust where you're speaking and see if that helps at all. And Izzy, if you want to like, well, she's.
I say, do you want me to hop in and we'll
Yeah,
circle back when
Yes.
Vita gets it fixed? Hi, I'm Izzy from Happy for Now. I read predominantly romance. I read manga and other stuff too, like 98% romance. And I am Team DNF. I am not good at DNFing books. Do I sometimes have videos in which I torture myself? Perhaps. Been known to read a thing or two just for the comedic effect. But yeah, no, that author can go shove it.
Okay.
My name is Nicole. My channel name is Who Picked This Book. I read predominantly romance, but I do read a lot of other things as well. I am also on Team DNF, even though I don't DNF a lot of books. I don't think I've DNF'd any book this year, actually. I'm just like Izzy. I'll sometimes torture myself sometimes just to finish a book and just to be able to rant about it.
don't you read like 70 books a month and you don't have a DNF this year? I don't feel like that's actually Team DNF at all. I just want to
Like she
point that out.
supports other people's right to DNF, I guess.
Exactly.
Is like, okay.
Exactly.
Fair, fair.
I DNF'd like 2 books last year, Heather. Okay. But yes, DNF a book if you want to, for sure.
Okay. Ashley.
Hey y'all, I'm Ashley. Bookish Rome. I read a little bit of everything. I don't know. Like I don't think I actively say that I DNF things. So I could start something and then just not finish it. So I guess technically that's DNFing. But I'm not like Heather, where I take pride and joy in every video talking about every freaking book that I've DNF for the month. So, you know, but I guess I support people's rights to do whatever they want to do with their reading experience.
Fair enough. Vina, if we're able to get things figured out for you, let me know and we can try again. But I know can be some technical issues sometimes. I mean, I DNF things. I like if I feel like it. Although, like it's and maybe we can talk a little bit about this because I do see somewhat what this person is saying, but I think it's a more nuanced issue than like what they're trying to say. So like I'm also in favor of DNFing a book if you want to. I think reading can be what you want it to be, that it can be entertainment. That is a valid way to read. I do think that you can also read for education, and that's not a bad thing to do. And I do think that sometimes, you know, and I'm curious to hear people's take on this, but I do think that it is true that sometimes like finishing a book you're not enjoying the process of can still be satisfying, but I don't feel like people should feel like they have to do it. And I don't agree that it's like insulting to the author to not read every book you start. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at on that. Thoughts from anybody else, or I can look a little bit at the
I guess, you know what my question is? Wouldn't you think, as an author, you would rather someone not review your book with a 1 or 2 star review and talk about how much they hated it than like literally be like, cool, I'm gonna just put this down and not talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I think this comment is exactly what you're saying. I do think it's telling that like the person in the article is a novelist. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would I do feel like sometimes people, especially who write literary fiction, can get a little precious about their writing. So I don't know how much of it's that.
I think that's kind of interesting, especially from the creator standpoint, because, okay, I have 2,000 subscribers now. If y'all didn't know, I've officially hit 2,000. And of the 2,000, there's like a solid 2 who say I'm their favorite. So there's that. And those 2 don't technically owe me views on a video, right? And they definitely don't owe me to finish a video, much less I put out 3 videos a week for all intents and purposes, right? There's exceptions, but pretty much that's my schedule. That's a lot of videos in a year. So even though a video is significantly shorter than reading a book, it's still a time commitment if you watch almost all of my videos, right? You don't, even if I'm your favorite, you don't have to watch my videos. And if you start a video and you're like, this is kind of boring, you're not required to finish it. As a creator, your job is to hook the person in the beginning, right? Or they're not going to finish your video. But even the people who like I'm their favorite, not every video is going to be for them, and then I'm not going to be for everybody. Do I want the people who don't like my videos to watch the whole thing and then comment and tell me why they didn't like it? I really don't. I don't understand why we would want that for books.
You really don't want that? Because I mean, this guy thinks that's what we want, I feel like. And it's like, no, please don't. Like, if you don't want to watch a video, don't watch it. Same thing for a book.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a hot take. Authors with that opinion are usually the ones who have problems accepting editing suggestions. Okay.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
I maintain I'm a fan of DNFing, and my thought process is if you don't want us to DNF it, then write a better book.
The shade.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's very accurate though.
I
For,
mean-
like,
My God.
I agree.
listen, when a book's so bad that I 1-star it pulled me through to some capacity for me to keep like wanting to read it enough that I was like, I have to finish this so I can scream about how bad it is. That's not a good thing either. But a book that I'm like, this is gonna be 2 stars, DNF.
Do y'all feel some type of way when people continue books that they know that they don't like just so they can do a rant review?
I feel some type of way when people read books by authors they know they don't like just so they can do a rant review.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
continuing a book you've already started, whatever. But like if you keep going back to that author just for the content, that
I'll
bothers me.
probably, for an author that I just am continually like not enjoying, I'll probably give them like 2 or 3 chances maybe. But other than that, I'm just like, no, I'm done. But yeah, just to get that rantiness going. I don't know.
I mean, they can do what they want, right? But
Yeah.
I might have feelings about it.
Yeah, I'm not.
Do you, Ashley? What do you think?
Do I have feelings about it?
Hey,
I mean, I almost cursed.
it's all right.
Listen, people gonna do what they're gonna do for clicks at the end of the day. So, it doesn't bother me. I just find it interesting that you literally put yourself through BS for content. I mean, it's that's your choice if you want to do it. But I mean, it's rather strange if you continuously keep going back to that person that you know that you just don't like that author.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's weird.
at that point, it's like you said, it's just for clicks, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's clickbait.
Yeah.
I feel like if they're open about it, I'm okay with it. Kind of, they're just like, yeah, I'm just doing this because like I know everybody wants me to do this. Because I get sent books and people are like, you need to read this and yell about it in a video. So
Because it's entertaining for them. I mean, yeah, fair. Dina, can we hear you? Like, hopefully. Oh, no.
I hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the problem is. Okay. Try to figure this out. Yeah. Like, I do know the camera mic settings, like, you should be able to select, like, which mic you're using. I'm sorry, we're having so much trouble with it.
That's Venus' pretty face. If you're not already subscribed
Yes.
to her, you should be.
I'm so sorry. If
she
we can't
talks good
figure it
stuff
out
and you
and
can
you
hear
want to
her.
like put stuff in comments too, we can do that and put it up. But like, hopefully we can get this worked out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Heather said if you
Yeah.
have headphones, you can try maybe.
That's true. Sometimes that works. Sorry, guys. Anybody else feelings on people doing like reading stuff they know they're not going to like?
I don't watch those videos, to be honest. I'm not into it. Now, if you did not realize you were going to hate the book, I'll listen to you rant about it, especially if you're entertaining about it. But I don't know. I'm not going to pick up things that I know I won't like. Basically, I'm shooting for every book to be a 5-star read. I want to read books that I like. And even if I didn't like it, I actually really want you to like the book. I'll argue with you about it, because I do. But I want you to enjoy what you're reading genuinely. So, that's not fun for me. I don't want to read stuff that I don't like. And honestly, I'm too harsh with this if I don't like the first book I read by an author, I usually don't give them another chance. And it's weird because like I know so many of my favorite authors. I'm like, oh, if I had read this one first, like I would have never read them again. But I did it. It wasn't my first one. So I don't know. I don't enjoy it.
And that's hard. Like when you read an author, like let's say for example, it's their debut and you really didn't like it and you DNF'd it and they come out with something else and everybody is like, oh, it was really good. Then you're like, well, I didn't have a good experience with it.
I do that sometimes.
And,
I've done that.
and then you just effectively DNF the author.
No.
I give them another try though. I can't like if it's their debut, I'm thinking like, okay, they're new to this. So maybe from this first book that people that DNF'd it, maybe they'll change things and make it a little bit better than the first one. So I try to give them just a little bit of leeway, a little bit like a second chance at least for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair because, you know, debuts are hit or miss. I mean, all books are hit or miss.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Definitely.
I'm open usually to giving a second try or at least like I'll wait and see what the reviews are though. Like if people I trust review a book by an author, really I might like try it, but I'm probably not going to buy it. Like I'm probably going to get it from the library.
Yeah, in that particular situation, if it was like a debut that didn't really, you know, resonate with me for some reason, I would give their second book a try. But like Bethany said, I would probably borrow it from the library or if, you know, someone that I trusted. But yeah, that's kind of like that. I would like, okay, maybe your first book wasn't all that great, but like Brandy was saying, like you're new, like I'll give you another shot.
Oh wow, there's a lot of like.
Do y'all look at somebody differently if you DNF a book and they give it 4 or 5 stars?
What?
You
no. Oh wait, no. There is one book, Ashley. I said no very quickly, and I'm wrong. There is one book, and it is the book that I read at Halloween last year.
Oh,
I ran across a TikTok where a girl was raving about it, and
yes,
I had to stop myself. I had to stop myself from being like, "Are you okay?" Because you are raving about a romance with necrophilia in it right now, and it was disgusting.
Hold up. Heather, I'm not talking about you right now, bro. Like, why are you coming for me in the comments? I'm not even talking to you. I'm not even talking to you. I'm not doing anything to you.
It was your minions.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. That's Heather and Bree. That has nothing. I mean, that's Izzy and Bree. That has nothing to do with me.
I'm just pointing out I'm doing better than some people.
For her.
I was just backing Bree up in the comments.
So,
but yeah, that was my one experience in which I did I was concerned.
Fair.
Izzy, is that the one that I read even though you told me not to?
Yeah, and I will not say the title of this book because every time I say it, somebody reads it and they message me and they're like, "Why did I read this?" And I was like, I literally very specifically said not to read it for a reason.
Look. This is a good point, Malka. Yeah, that like it is ableist. There are, because it's true, there are books that are not working for people or there's triggering content for some people. Yeah. And I think that's one thing is like, even if you are a person, like some people are like, well, like I'm not triggered by anything, like that shouldn't be a thing. But just because it's not true for you doesn't mean it can't be true for other people. Yeah.
Well, I do like, and now that they're trying to, at the beginning of the book, they do warn you about the content, like the content warnings. I do like that they're now starting to do that.
At least in YA and romance.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's typically a reason why I would DNF something is I have one very specific trigger where I will immediately DNF a book. And
that's a hot take.
But same, because we talked about this in our last live stream for our Uncle Rick
really?
along. So we're like, we should have DNF'd Kane Chronicles.
Oh no.
But yeah, like when something is triggering, I'd be like, don't Like, why would you want to force someone to read that if it's going to be triggering for them? Like, that's just not okay.
Yeah. Fair. Anybody else? Reasons that you might choose to DNF if you do DNF? Like, what is it that would? Hey.
Hey, can you guys
Yes!
hear me now?
We can hear you. Yay. Oh, I'm glad that worked out. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't know why. It wasn't picking up my camera mic at all on the computer.
That's so weird. Yeah, I don't know what happens with that stuff. So, okay, so like let me give you the floor because you haven't been able to talk. Like thoughts on DNFing, do you DNF, whatever else you want to chime in on.
Oh, I've been embracing my inner Heather lately and DNFing, even if it's like 80% into the book, like one of my recent reads. And I've also been embracing DNFing arcs. Like, even if it's an arc that I was really excited about, I'm like, I'm not torturing myself anymore. I was traumatized by too many books this year.
I probably should do it more than I do. Like, I do DNF stuff, but not nearly as much. Okay. All right. So I feel like everybody is at least somewhat pro. I did try to like find some variation in at least how frequently people do, but I couldn't find anybody who was like actively anti-DNFing that I knew. So
I feel like you've surrounded yourself with quality people.
I make good life
feel like
choices.
that would have been a fight here if somebody was like, I don't think anyone should DNF. I think we all would have been like,
who would have ganged up on them? Like, why? Yeah, that's true. Okay, so like let's maybe go around and talk, which we've dabbled a little bit in this, but like if you DNF, like what are some reasons you would do it? How far do you usually give a book? How quickly would you DNF? Like Heather, I know you're gonna be like immediately. Or and like maybe here would be an interesting thing if you know, like what is the fastest you've ever DNF'd something? And what is like the farthest into a book you've DNF'd?
Hello. Yes, I have DNF'd on the first page for sure. 100%. If I'm like, this is garbage writing, I'm not reading more of it. Okay. So, especially because I read a lot of indie romances, right? Some of them are phenomenal, the best books you will ever read. And some of them aren't ready to be made public, like at all. They're just poor quality. A lot of them are not. A lot of them are great quality. I love indie romances. But at the same time, if I'm going to try new authors willy-nilly, I'm not going to be annoyed if I'm like, okay, no, you're not the one for me, and that's fine. I'm going to keep on moving. And I do this a lot with books in the same trope or something. Like, say I'm in the mood for a mafia romance, there will be times I'll DNF like 3 in the same night because they weren't the ones that I wanted, and that's totally fine. So I'll DNF on the first page. Usually that is something like annoyed me instantly, or it's poor writing, or I have DNF'd like 98% into a book, probably. I'm not sure because it was a physical book, but it was the it was the final Aragon book. It was the last one, and there was like 2 chapters left, and I was just really mad. I was like, this is garbage. No, I don't know. And then I'm pretty sure that got fixed, but I was too angry to go back and find out. So I don't know. I never quite found out how that ended.
Oh my god. So here's the flea of the DNFing scale. Heather's like over here on the set.
Any reason, anytime.
Y'all are also listening to someone who rates books and recommends books that she hasn't read. So just keep that in mind.
That is not true. That is literal.
It is true. We have a whole live discussion about that. Yes, we do.
Okay.
You should have left me alone. I came to this live show to play nice, and you started it. So let me finish.
I'm just pointing out that is actual inaccurate facts.
She's
Erica?
also not talking about like when we actually went on a live talking about you, and then you go back and rate books because they weren't rated.
No. It's inaccurate. One of these days I'll do a whole live explaining the mess that is my Goodreads. But basically, if it's from 2020 on, you can mostly trust what I put there. Mostly.
No, you can't. No, you
Mostly.
can't. If you can, if the trust is not 100, it ain't no trust there, baby. That's it.
I'm
It's
just
either
saying,
all or nothing.
Am I literally going to go back and lower a rating of a book I did today? Yes, I am, because I've been thinking about it all day. But technically, that's honesty for you.
I do that too. Go back and lower my rating on a book if it's bothering me.
I've done that too,
Yeah.
actually. I will do
I've
that.
done that.
Yeah.
I think everybody's done that.
Yeah. Erica.
So, I have never DNF'd on the first page.
Okay.
I have definitely DNF'd after. So my rule of thumb is if I've read 25%, that's where I try to get to.
Mhm.
And there are times when I just can't get to that, probably because of the writing, probably because of the pacing, the something is going on. But I try to give it at least a quarter of the book, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
And I have DNF'd with a couple of chapters left to go because I'm like, I can't do it anymore, and it feels like I've wasted my time. And it's just you know for yourself that it's not going to be better. There's not going to be some great big reveal or something. So
Yeah.
that's me.
Okay. Brandy?
Well, for me, I can't DNF on just the first page because really I don't know what the story is about. Going off of that, I usually will DNF if it hasn't grasped my attention within the 30% of the book. I will DNF it. Like there was a book out that came out this year, and a lot of some of my favorite authors are all up in it, and I DNF'd it because it was that bad. I can't. And then if it's just even for the last couple of chapters, if I already tortured myself, I'm probably just going to finish reading it and then rant about it later because I feel like I wasted precious time already reading it. I might as well continue on reading it and just get it over with.
Makes sense. All right.
So Charles is in the chat talking about samples, and I treat like the first 5 to 10% of the book like a sample, and if I'm not in, I don't necessarily mark it as a DNF, but I might decide like it's a not right now book, so it just goes back onto my want to read shelf, or it's just coming off the TBR completely shelf because I didn't like the writing. But I don't like mark it as a DNF necessarily then, because I'm just like whatever. I don't have enough of an opinion to be like this is why I DNF'd it. Usually it's just like wasn't working for me. I shoot for like between 15 to 25, 30%. I have DNF'd a book at like 50%, 60%, but usually I will finish it so that I can fully encapsulate all the things wrong with it. And I do not DNF when I have 2 chapters left. I just skim read till I'm done because I just, at that point, what's the point?
Fair.
Yeah, I could never DNF when I have 2 chapters left. Especially, I'm just like,
No.
2 chapters? It's like, I'm finishing this book. I deserve it.
They were long chapters.
Putting it on my spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever DNF'd on the first page either, because at that point I'm just like, you can't really tell, like what Brandy was saying, you can't tell like what the book's going to be about. It's kind of hard to judge.
You have never picked up a book that was like it was written by an elementary student? You've never been like, this writing is not meant to be put out in the world? You've never picked up a book like that?
No,
I don't know. I literally, I have no idea because I'm like, nope, done, goodbye, and I don't remember them.
Is
so.
anyone else like suspicious that Heather is on like the real weird, like very
Yes.
niche down like KU list?
I
And
mean,
it's like
Yeah.
click,
For sure.
and then like
for
this
sure.
is terrible, and we're all like, "But you found it on this the tiniest list."
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
I try to get at least 50% of the way into a book before I DNF. I have DNF'd before that.
Mhm.
I think the quickest I've ever DNF'd was probably like 2 chapters into a book. And that was The Flame and the Flower by Kathleen E. Woody Wiss. For reasons.
Fair.
Is it me?
Yeah, sure.
I also do not DNF on the first page. I don't know how you know anything about a book on the first page, but it's Heather, so we'll just give it to her. You should have left me alone. I'm coming for you all night long. I think I usually give it about 20%, honestly. That's usually my go-to number, but I'm also a silent DNFer. So what's crazy about it is that I'll wait to mark something on Goodreads until I reach that point. So half the time that I'm really not finishing stuff, like people don't know that it's happening in the background because it's never any like technical evidence of it. So that's why I think a lot of times I'm like, I don't feel like I really DNF. I'm like Bree, where I feel like I'll just come back to this, or maybe I need to try another format. If an audiobook is trash, that's definitely time for me to be like, okay, I need to figure out something else because this is not working for me. I started listening to a middle grade book today. What is it? Make sure I don't get the title wrong because I'll tear this title up. It is that thing about Bollywood.
I think I have that one.
Yeah, I started reading that one today, and I think it's going to be good, but I don't like the audiobook narrator. So technically I started it and I'm not DNFing it, but it's like, I probably need to see if my library has a physical copy, because at this point I know that the audiobook is not going to work for me, because I feel like sometimes formats can make or break an experience for somebody, you know?
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably my typical reasoning for DNFing. I've always had a hard time DNFing because I feel like, dang, I need to finish this book. But lately I just haven't had the time. I don't have the time to push through something that I'm not really enjoying. But audiobook narrators are a key for me not to finish a book. It has to be a very special book if I don't like anybody in the book for me to finish it. So an example of that for me is I just finished May Cobb's The Hunting Wives last month. And no one in that book has a redeemable quality. Usually for me, I won't finish a book like that, but she did some good things with it. So that's why I finished it.
Well, for me, the earliest I've DNF'd is 2 chapters in, and the only one I did that on this year was Witches Steeped in Gold, because it was just not connecting with me. And before I DNF'd, I messaged Ashley. I'm like, because I knew she was reading it at the same time, like, how far are you? Because it's just not clicking. I don't know what's going on with this book. And then I had talked to Amber, and she DNF'd it. Then I was following some other people who were reading it, and they never finished it, or they were struggling to finish it. I'm like, okay, I'm stopping now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll read the audiobook later.
So honestly, this is the thing too, is like, if I'm struggling with a book, I will go check Goodreads reviews. And especially if like people I know and trust say stuff that I know is going to bug me, I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm just going to stop. But yeah, interesting. I think I usually will give a book like around 20-30%. I think the earliest I've ever DNF'd that I recall, though, is like a chapter, because it was a really, really bad chapter. I'm trying to find like what this book was. And I knew, The Wrong Mr. Darcy by Evelyn Lozada. It was so bad. So I had already heard from a friend who did not like it. So I was like, went in prepared for it not being great. And I read the first chapter, and there were like several, like the writing was terrible, and there were several very offensive things. And it's supposed to be a rom-com, and I was like, nope, I'm good. So that's probably the earliest, and I think the latest is like 80%, but it was a longer book. But I have DNF'd late in the game a few times if I just get to the point where I'm like, I do not care, and I don't care what happens at the end of this book, and I'm so sick of reading it, I will stop. So, yeah.
Hey, can we? Never mind. I'm gonna close my mouth. This is not my channel.
What?
Ashley's going to go on a ableist
Listen, no
rant.
shade, book timer, Ryan, but absolute shade. That's ableist as hell. Because everybody can't physically read a book. Like, I don't like when, as a librarian, I can't stand when people say that. Like, no disrespect.
It's so shitty.
But yeah, like
sometimes
I disagree with this.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with that, my friend.
Yeah.
Disagree
Like,
100%.
I 100% disagree with that, because I feel like, especially with kids that I've worked with that have disabilities that prevent them from being able to explicitly read text, like dyslexia, to tell a kid that they're not really reading, that they're consuming because they have to listen to an audiobook is, for lack of a better term, pretty effed up, and it discourages kids from continuing to read because they feel like they can't do what everybody else can do. It's not their fault that they have a disability. So I feel like, I mean, and good for you, good for you using audiobooks. And I get it, but I feel like to say that it's not real reading, it's consuming, is reading a physical book also not consuming information? Like, I feel like you're playing with technicalities of words here. Like, I just don't feel like that's I don't feel like that's legit, and you're kind of shitting on someone else's experience. And I feel like, and I could be wrong for saying this, so y'all could call me out. I don't feel like one person's experience, and I'm not knocking your disability because I don't have dyslexia, but your experience with dyslexia is not everybody else's experience with dyslexia. Yeah. So you shouldn't speak for the whole group because of your experience.
And I also think about, like, there are people who are blind, there are people with other disabilities who, like, cannot read books, and, like, to say that then they're not reading is, I think, kind of a problem. And I mean, ultimately, in some way, you're consuming it regardless. Like, if you're reading it with your eyes, you're consuming it. If you're reading it with your ears, you're
consuming information. It's stuff that you're playing with words. You're playing with semantics at this point.
Semantics.
It's semantics. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, anything that you take in information it's consuming of information. I just get really passionate about stuff like this because I have kids who become reluctant readers who don't like to pick up books because of shit like that. So you can disagree with that. We can agree to disagree, but
I was a literature major
with both. Like, I do, a lot of my recent reads have been audiobook and physical book, and I'll switch between both. And
I'll do that too.
Sci-fi I was reading recently, it really helped because I wouldn't have finished Destroyer of Light if I just had to physically read it. I kept getting lost.
Yeah.
Who's talking about book numbers though? You're completely missing the point.
Yeah, that's not really the point.
Nobody's talking about book numbers.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about book numbers. I explicitly am talking about a child children that I work with. Like, it's completely going woof.
So I was a literature major, and a lot of the I wouldn't have been able to get through all of the books that I had to read as a literature major just by sitting down physically reading them. So I had to get audiobooks in order to read the books. But more importantly, I tutor at-risk youth in reading, and a lot of them don't like to read. And what helps them read and stay engaged is actually listening to the book versus sitting down and flipping pages. And it's especially if it's some content that they're already not interested in or they can't relate to. So you have to find a way. Reading is reading, consuming media is consuming media, however you choose to consume it, be it with your eyeballs or with your ears. It is still a consumption of literature.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you can't put everybody in the same bag.
I mean, I also think that something that's worth talking about, right, is that, and I think that maybe this is a little bit what the concern is, although I don't think this is an exclusive concern to audiobooks, and I don't know that it really matters, honestly, that much in the grand scheme of things, but like, I do hear people being concerned that like, oh, well, like, are people really reading, or are they just like kind of halfway doing it for numbers? Which, if they are, who cares? Honestly, like, it's not a competition. But people can just as much do that skim reading a book or skim reading an ebook, and like, like I don't think that's exclusive to audiobooks. Like, I think what matters, if you're concerned about that as an issue, which, like, honestly, I don't care what other people are doing, but like, if you're concerned about it, especially for a student in school, for instance, which is a different thing, like school versus an adult doing it for enjoyment purposes. But then, like, okay, are you paying attention to it? Are you processing it? Are you thinking about it? And like, people also read at different rates and process information.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And look, I mean, here's the thing. I just think, to me, I don't know you, but to me, this comes across as feeling like what you're doing maybe isn't adequate or not enough, and like not liking that other people maybe do things differently or can process information at different rates. And like, there's nothing like you can read however many books you want to be a reader. Some people read fast, some people read slow. Like, all of it is legitimate. There's nothing wrong with it. And I don't know. I see a lot of this.
My whole thing about it, to be honest and to keep it 100, like I said, Ryan, like we can agree to disagree. Like, you're going to have your thoughts and your opinions, and I'm not going to continue to be pressed because it doesn't wipe my backside nor pay my bills. For me, it's like, why do people get so pressed over what other people are like? Why y'all be so stressed over what other people are doing, whether they're reading or not? Like, I don't know if Susie May or Tina is really reading their books. I really don't care at the end of the day. That's between them, what they do when they go to sleep at night. If they're not reading, that they have to live with that. That has nothing to do with me at the end of the day. But it's like, why do you care so much about what someone else is doing in terms of the number of books that they're reading? It's not that serious. If they're sitting there and they're lying to get clicks, to make coins, like, I promise you, things come around full circle. That's their business. It's no point being that pressed over what someone else is doing. Like, don't measure yourself to someone else's experience. Don't feel like because someone has 500 books read in a year and you don't, that makes you any less of a reader, because that's not true. You just don't read at the same rate or the same, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it gets hard when there are people who feel pressure one direction or another, right? Like, there are people who feel like, oh, I'm not reading enough. But then, like, there's some of us who do and always have read a lot, like, legitimately. And then, like, we get feedback of like, well, you should read less. Like, why are you reading so much? I'm like, I don't watch. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I'm like, I read fast. I don't watch television. I write reviews for every freaking book I read. And like, if you think somebody is not being honest about it, then like, check out their reviews. And if they're not really reading it, they won't have good reviews. And then like, don't follow them.
I guess I just don't understand why we have to police anyone's reading in general. So that whole thing, and it's fine.
Yeah,
Romance readers always read fast, though. You're like, most of us are reading like books that are shorter. Therefore, we're gonna get done faster.
Thank you.
Yeah, like as a romance reader, like it's literally like not unheard of to read 365 plus books in a year because they're quick reads.
Yeah.
Ryan, there's nothing wrong with you being a slow reader.
There's nothing wrong with being a slow reader.
There's nothing wrong with you being a slow reader. Like, It's don't, what I'm saying is, and I'm not minimizing, I don't know if you meant like me minimizing some, it's not, nobody should be ashamed of having a lower book count or reading slower, or, you know, I just can't consume as fast, or my life is structured extremely different. Like, there's 8 of us. I had to count real quick, y'all. Damn. I was like, wait. There's 8 of us.
We got a full house tonight.
There's 8 of us on the screen, right?
Yeah.
All of us have different lives. Some of us are parents, some of us are not. Some of us have partners, some of us are single. We all move differently. Some of us may be in, I don't know if anybody's in school or not, but I'm just gonna say that your personal life is gonna dictate your ability to consume or to read. I'm just saying that, like, I just don't get down, and I disagree with you. And the reason why I am passionate about it is because I work with kids who have been harmed by statements like that. That's the reason why I'm so hot, because that's my job. So when I see people make statements like that, even though I'm going to assume that mostly everybody in the room, including the chat, are adults. When adults make statements like that, especially around kids, it hurts. It hurts them in their reading process. It deters them from reading. It hurts their chances in school. And it ends up being this endless cycle. I understand that you have dyslexia. And like I said, I can't speak to your experience. I can't speak to having a disability. But what I do know from my experience in working with kids like that is that how you phrase things, how you word things is extremely important. The same way I don't walk up to a kid and say graphic novels are not real books.
Right.
I don't do that. I don't do that. That's not fair.
And I think that even what you were saying, Ashley, one dyslexic person with dyslexia to another, even how they are treated.
Sorry.
Yeah. Gosh.
I'm like, shit, I gotta go step up my reading game. Damn it.
Even how they're treated in school. They can be in the same classroom, maybe getting the same education, but depending on how their teacher treats each person can affect their I don't want to say ability, but their enjoyment and how they learn.
I'm not speaking to the disability. I said I've worked with kids who have dyslexia who get impacted. Can I not speak about something that I've seen and worked with firsthand?
Yeah, no,
I'm not speaking about having dyslexia or what it's like to have dyslexia. I can't speak to because I don't have the disability.
Right.
Like, I'm just gonna stop talking because you're gonna hear what you want to hear and see what you want to see. So
I think
be blessed.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, we've kind of said what we need to say with it.
I mean,
and we
his
can,
heart at the end of the day, really.
you know, people like are where they're at with stuff. Okay,
and he was actually like contradicting like what he was even saying at the beginning.
Sorry. Vienna, what? Sorry.
All right, I said I'm gonna keep pushing audiobooks. Audiobooks helped my best friend get back into reading.
Yes. Yeah.
She did not start back reading until last year during the pandemic. I actually sent her, using like the free option to send somebody who doesn't have Audible, like the chance to test an audiobook, and she started picking up books again, and she bought a Kindle this year.
My husband is the same way. He hated reading until I introduced audiobooks to him. Now he reads or he listens to audiobooks on a regular basis. And I also agree with Ashley. Like, I'm a mother of 3 kids and I have a husband, and it's not about numbers for me at all. I read because I enjoy it. But you know, maybe if I, if I didn't have, kids or whatever, I probably couldn't read as much, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with my speed of how I read and everything like that. It's like, literally, it's not about numbers. So I don't even know where numbers even came up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Ryan, I'm gonna need you to stop because you've dominated the conversation. Yeah. And we have focused way too much on you. So either you come with something positive or you don't come at all.
Well, we're talking about DNFing.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Which
I feel like some people do think that you DNF to boost your numbers, which again, I don't count
DNF.
Really
I don't count them in my numbers.
Me
like
neither.
if I DNF a book, it doesn't, even if it's at like 80%, it's not in my numbers. Like I will review it and I'll talk about like why I DNF'd it, but I don't count it as a read book.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm almost the opposite. I don't count it on my Goodreads because Izzy was like, all you have to do is go on the desktop and you can make a DNF shelf. And I was like, okay, well, on the phone, you can't do that. So, like, excuse me.
You can put it on the DNF shelf from your phone. It's really easy.
Yes. But I couldn't make the shelf for my phone. But I did. I made it on the computer and I've been using it all year. Except then sometimes it counts books read and then I delete them. And then I don't know how many I DNF'd, but it's fine. So I really don't talk about the books that I DNF unless it's in a reading vlog. Is kind of the only reason I talk about a book I DNF. So in my wrap up, I'll say I read 34 books. I DNF'd 8 of them. I'm going to talk about 26, right? But then I don't actually tell you anything about the books that I DNF'd. I don't even say what they are. So for me, for instance, I've read 250-ish books this year. I've DNF'd like another 50 on top of that. Out of the 250, I have 2 1-stars, which is actually kind of high for me because but I feel like I'm getting better at handing them out. But if I didn't DNF those other 50, that number would be drastically larger. So in my opinion, especially little indie authors or someone who is a debut author, or even it was just me and my mood, and that was literally the only reason I DNF'd it, it's way better for me to say nothing about it and not rate it 1 star than it is to make sure I count it and be like, this was trash.
Yeah.
I don't count DNFs in my numbers.
Yeah,
I do have a shelf on Goodreads, and Storygraph has a section where you can say that you DNF'd it. It will count, Storygraph will count page numbers if you do page numbers though. So that's the cool part.
Yeah, so I don't, because I do most of this in my own spreadsheet. So I have a separate tab for DNFs. So I don't, in my stats, I don't count any of my DNFs in my read books or in my page count. So I actually read probably, if I DNF books, more pages than but this is the thing. I'm at a point where I read so many books. I don't really care about what my numbers are. I mean, okay, and it balances out because I'll read books that are several hundred to 1,000 pages, and then I'll read little comics and graphic novels. So I just don't care. I include all of whatever I finish. But this year I've read over 350 books and I've DNF'd 19. So I'm I don't I do stats because they're fun and interesting for me, but I read so much that I just I don't care what my numbers are. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like what that Erica brought up. The Storygraph has that page counting aspect because I feel like even if you do DNF a book, you still spent some time on it. And I want something to count for that time. I don't want my time to be completely wasted. But so that's what I like about the Storygraph too, is that if you count pages, the what you did read is counted towards it. But Shomla is saying that I did DNF, cannot remember. But again, I've read over 300 books and I haven't DNF'd a single one. But if I get past a certain point, if I read 80% of it, I don't know.
I'm like you, Bethany. DNFs at this point don't even matter because I'm at 360 books for the year.
Yeah,
Liz, it's fine. It's fine. It's been a rough 2 years. It's fine.
It's true.
We all have our coping mechanisms. And
Izzy, you and I also both don't have full-time jobs. This is kind of what we do.
Exactly. So that's part of it too. And I've DNF'd 6 books. What I already would have hit 365 if I 2-starred 6 books, 1 and 2 stardom. Like, nah, we're good. Like, it just, for me, DNFs keep my reading like going, because if I push through a booklet I am not enjoying, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to exit that book in the worst slump of my life.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good question. How do you guys approach books that you have for review or have wanted to give away?
Those are hard, but I had to learn this year to stop reading those books. Like, I used to feel really bad, especially if they sent you an arc in the mail. And I'm like, well, somebody else could have had it. Now I'll just give it away to somebody else. Like, I'll send it to one of my mutuals so I don't feel as bad. But earlier this year, Scholastic gave me 5 books and I only asked them for 2. And they actually sent me duplicates of the ones that I asked for, because they sent them, then sent me a box of other ones I didn't ask for. So I'm just like, well, I'll get to them if I get to them, but the ones I didn't get to, I gave away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like, for me, there is definitely a difference between books that I requested or said I would review versus things that were randomly sent to me. I do not feel any responsibility to read a book that has just been sent to me without being like, where there wasn't like a verbal discussion of it. I am probably like, if it's a NetGalley book, I will DNF it. If it's a physical book, I have to really be struggling with it to DNF it if it's for review. That's like just me. And even if I DNF a NetGalley book, I'll still write a review. I'll talk about how far I got. I don't rate it. I mean, I have to rate it on NetGalley, but on Goodreads, I won't rate it. I'll like write a review about like why I DNF'd it, my thoughts of what I had read so far, and like hope like whatever I think would be helpful for other readers. Anybody else? What do you guys do?
I will DNF an arc with, sorry, my dog. He's at my feet just crying. So many weird noises, as Heather called them, whale noises. That's my dog. I will DNF anything and everything. I do not care. At the end of the day, if I can tell you why I'm DNFing it, I don't really feel bad if I DNF an arc, because again, do they want my 1 or 2 star review if I finish it, or would they rather I just say this is why it wasn't for me and move on? I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I definitely DNF arcs. But I also work at a bookstore, so I get a lot of arcs from work. I don't enter giveaways very much anymore because I don't win them. But
I won my first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't won a giveaway and I don't know when, but like I've had publishers reach out to me and they were reaching out a lot. And I was like, "Ooh, that sounds good." And I would get the book and then I'd start reading it and I'd be like, maybe not. And then I would feel bad because they actually reached out to me to get me a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get very many arcs. Oh, sorry, Dana, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay, I'll go. It also depends on the format. I feel like an audiobook galley I will push through because I can just listen to it.
Yeah, I usually do too.
With NetGalley, I'll do what Tiffany does. I'll write a review like explaining why I DNF'd. With the physical one, I'm like, I just don't have the urge anymore to pick it up. So I'm like, I'll just give it away.
Yeah, I don't get very many arcs. I honestly just made like a NetGalley account this year, but I haven't requested anything except for that Christmas cozy that I'm gonna read anyway. But I don't know. I feel like my time. I have a lot of like book clubs and live streams that I'm reading books for that I don't want to add more to my plate by requesting and accepting arcs. But when I do, I do feel some sort of responsibility to finish it, and I do try my best. But yeah, if I'm not really enjoying it, then yeah, I'll DNF it.
So this is kind of related and I think interesting to talk about best practices for talking about DNF'd books. I don't know that there's like a specific way, but I think maybe we could talk about how we approach it along with this. Like I can say I Well, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between a book, like which someone mentioned earlier, sampling something where like you read like a couple chapters and they're like, maybe not. Like usually if it's not a thing I have for review, I won't talk about it. But if I got significantly into it personally, I will write a review, but I don't star my reviews if they're DNFs. I put them on a separate shelf and I don't give them a star rating. And I'll say what percentage or how many pages I got in before I DNF'd it. And I'll talk about my thoughts on the book so far and my reasons for DNFing, because sometimes it might be like something was triggering and FYI, some readers might be fine with this, others won't. It might be that I thought it was poorly written. Like there could be a variety of reasons. So like I'll talk a little bit about that in the review. Anyone else? I know some people rate their DNFs, which is controversial.
It's same. Like I usually, if I do, I'd like to talk about what didn't work for me, why I didn't want to finish the arc. Just like, if it's an editing issue, then they know, or just this wasn't what I thought it was. It just didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Like I just try to keep it basic, and I try not to I try to communicate like if I'm doing it in a video, why it didn't work. So that way, if it is something you're interested in, perhaps if you're a good reader that like picks up on the things not everyone does, and that's okay. It takes a lot of reading, I think, to hear the keywords that are your like triggers to pick up a book, to make sure I'm including those phrases that are like, maybe it's a slow build or something and I didn't want that. And that's like your favorite thing.
Anyone else?
I don't necessarily say anything about DNF books, even on Goodreads. I did for like a month or something. I was doing pretty good there. I was like, just not in the mood. This has this in it, blah, blah, blah. But my DNFs are like wildly different. Again, it can be poor writing. I'm not in the mood. I'm literally just bored at this moment on a Tuesday night. And I'm like, I'm not gonna read it. I haven't picked it up in 3 days. And again, I'm like, I'm just gonna skip. Or it can be like anger. Like, I hate this book with everything in my being. And honestly, if I could talk you out of reading it, I would. So like there's quite a bit of variety, but I usually don't say anything, and I probably should, because some of them I'm like, no, this book is fine. I just don't feel like reading it. And there's others that I'm like, no, like, don't read it. Don't do it. Don't waste your money. I hate this person. I don't know them, but I kind of hate them. So, don't support them.
I feel like with most of my worst books this year, I pushed through and forced myself to finish them. The only ones that I DNF'd that I actually talked about that weren't just DNFing because it's boring were like some bad romances that I read, where then like I mentioned like what was annoying me on Twitter, like that one with the chocolate covered pink pot. That right before I DNF'd it, I had to tweet about that because it was just so ridiculous.
What?
And that he sucked her like an oyster.
I remember you tweeting that.
I remember that tweet.
Oh
my gosh.
Wait. He what? He sucked her like a oyster?
Yeah, that was in the description in the sex scene. And and mind you, that was 75% into this book. I'm like, I'm done.
No.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
If the other one involves food down there, that's just like a yeast infection waiting to happen.
Thank you. It
wasn't even about
yeast
food.
infection city.
Well, but especially like an oyster. I don't know.
That's
disgusting.
That's
so you want it to smell fishy?
I was getting ready
You
to say
couldn't
the
have
same
picked a
thing.
sexier food. Like, come on, oyster? What?
That's what you come up with.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Was this written by a man?
No, these were books written by women. And one of them was trade published. I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. The book was already boring. And then you're waiting for the sex scene. You get to it and it's trash.
And oysters, of all things to pick.
Maybe they
could have sucked her like a strawberry or a juicy peach.
Exactly. Like,
see, Ashley, you should be writing these.
And I'll eat oysters, but that's not the analogy I want.
Ew.
No, it's not.
Ew.
No.
And it didn't help. The book was set down south too. Like,
oh no, they could have gone with peach. I mean, like
oysters. Okay.
No.
Oh,
Maybe they were
no.
just really hanging on the fact that oysters are an aphrodisiac. They were really trying to push that.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, I think this is interesting. What do you guys do about anthologies? So I'm like, if I don't read every story in an anthology, I can't like count it as read. I just like can't get past it. But I think it's valid if people choose to like skip a couple things maybe, but I can't.
I typically don't. That's why I think Charles said it. I think he said that it gives him anxiety. It gives me anxiety too to
Me
read
too.
anthologies. Vina and I both read.
So you just don't read them. Okay.
We read. What did we read this year? Blackout.
Oh God! Don't talk about
Oh God!
Don't
Like
talk about Blackout. No,
That was another one I forced myself through with the audiobook. I wasn't even going to read it. And then HarperCollins offered me the audiobook. And a lot of people were like, oh, we want you to read this. Are you going to do a review of this? Are you going to do a review of this? I'm like, okay, they're giving me the audiobook. I will do a review of it. And the accent.
That book.
So reading an anthology like that, or reading an anthology in general, I think it could be such a mixed bag that it does make me nervous. And then rating it and reviewing it makes it even harder, because you can have like one or two pieces that are like awesome, and then the rest of the book, like I felt like Blackout was like that. Like I liked Tiffany D. Jackson's thing, and then oh damn, maybe that was the only one I did like. But like going through that and reading the rest of those is just kind of hard. But I typically do not. If I'm reading an anthology, I feel like you, Bethany, where I have to
read it.
I have to
read everything.
I have to read everything.
Yeah.
For anthologies and short story collections, those are really hard for me to rate, because it's just how do you, and it's especially if the short story collection doesn't have anything to do, the stories don't build on or have any type of like connection to the other stories, to each other. That's hard for me to sit down and rate.
Sometimes as I'm going, I'll give a rating to individual stories and then average them at the end.
Yeah, that's an idea.
I typically don't have a problem picking like in an anthology, just picking one story if it's an author that I know, or if it's a part of like it's a novella in a big romance series or something like that. I don't have a problem just reading that specific, novella in an anthology. And sometimes you can actually go on Goodreads and just like type in the name of that one story in the anthology, and they'll have like a separate listing, like not a part of the anthology, but it's its own separate little novella, and I'll mark that as read, but I won't mark the entire anthology as read if I don't read the other stories.
That makes sense.
So I try to pick up ones that aren't like the romance. There are these giant romance ones. I'm sure some of y'all have seen them. Some of you probably haven't. I don't, where they'll have like 10, 15 authors in it.
Yeah.
And I will go through and read the ones I want to read and just mark it as read, because like I'm not going to go back and necessarily read the authors. And if I don't like it, I'm skipping it, because I just feel like, anthologies to me are like a tasting of different authors. Like you get to kind of try some new people that maybe you didn't know about. If you like it, cool. If not, you just move on to the next one. And then I just kind of do like a cumulative rating of how I feel about the whole collection. They're usually 3 or 4 star reads, honestly. And that's that.
Yeah, I'm realizing I hate anthologies. And it's unfortunate because I have an author mutual I have to read an anthology for next year. So I'm going to have to push myself through that book. Most of the time I won't rate them unless I skip like one story. Like I was reading a Phoenix First Must Burn, and I did skip one story in that, and that's just because I just don't like the author. She and I had Twitter beef. So I had to skip that story. So I talked about all the stories I liked in the anthology. I just did not read that one or talk about that one.
Oh man.
I see. This is like that anthology.
You know what? Like I think this is fine. You know what? You do what works for you. I am like one of these people where I'm probably going to read everything. If I'm gonna fit, I'm either going to DNF the whole anthology, or I'm going to read everything in the anthology, even if I don't like it. Like I just.
Right. I don't think, at least I know I haven't. I've never given an anthology 5 stars.
Neither have I.
I have.
Neither of
The
us.
What
Secret Life of
anthology have
Church
you read
Ladies.
that was 5 stars?
I think I gave 5 stars to the Carmen Maria Machado short story collection.
Ah,
I think I gave it 4. It was at least close to that. I really liked it. There have been a couple where I like everything was a 4 or 5 star, and overall I would round it up. Like if I liked everything pretty well, like yeah. But it is hard. It's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's too many, especially if it's a host of different authors.
Yeah.
It's never gonna get 5 stars from me.
It's
Just
hard.
because it's hard to, like, the issue with Blackout, for example, is that everyone who was signed on to do that book cannot write romance. It's not that they're not necessarily good writers. I'm not knocking their craft, but sometimes you can't switch from one genre to another. You know what I'm saying? And it's definitely apparent in some of the stories where it's like, you don't write romance, and this is not the genre for you. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think some people get excited about being a part of an anthology, and it's not really their strongest area. So it's so hard for me to ever say that an anthology is close to perfection. It rarely ever is. For me personally.
Yeah.
The Secret Life of Church Ladies was a good one, though. Like, a lot of people who don't read anthologies really enjoy that one.
I've been hearing good things about that.
I liked that one, and I was surprised because it's also literary fiction, which I don't read a lot of, and so I was surprised. Like, that was one of the only literary fiction books that I read last year that I liked, and I liked enough to rate a high rating on an anthology.
That's great. It's a short book too. It's like I've seen it in bookstores. It's not that long.
Like Ashley was saying, I'd like to point out that authors who can write a short story or a novella really well is a skill. Not every good author can then make a good short story or novella. I love short stories and novellas, like I read so many all the time, and honestly it really helps me not to go into book slumps. But like there are some that are brilliant at it, and there are a lot of people who they can't do it, and that's fine. Like write what you're good at, just like make the videos you're good at. It's fine, but it's a skill.
Yeah.
And I think piggybacking off of what you just said, Heather, about oh gosh, I'm old. I just forgot what I was gonna say.
It'll come back to you.
It'll come. Right.
Blackout might have turned me off of reading some people's future books.
Don't do that.
Don't say that.
Don't do that. I mean, because it's not their genre. It's not their genre.
No, I've read so many of Dnf'D's books, and
I know I have to.
Her first series was okay for the first book, but not the second one. The Bells, it was like the reverse. The first book I hated, the second book I hated. I'm like, after reading Blackout, and I can't even remember what happened in her story, I'm like, yeah, she's not for me.
She has a very specific writing style. I like most of what she writes, but I like she's very she's got like a specific vibe.
I can't get into her books for some reason. I tried and I just can't. I can't.
They're very idea driven, which I think doesn't work for everybody. Like, yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. I have Blackout sitting over there. I haven't read it. I bought it because I wanted to like support it, and then like all these people were like, "It's not good." I'm like, "Oh no!"
Don't listen to the audiobook. The accents alone.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh. Okay. Here's a question: have you DNF'd books in a certain genre and then decided that the genre is not for you?
Yes.
Of course, Heather.
Listen, this is a bad thing. Don't listen to me. However, I did do this. Okay, I grew up reading like Nancy Drew and Trixie Belden and the Boxcar Children, like all these children's mysteries, right? So I was like, I'm an adult. I should read an adult mystery book. So I randomly, God knows, I have no idea what this was, but it was on some free app on my phone.
Oh
and it
my
was like
God.
a free book.
That's the problem
and it
right
was like
there.
serial killers. And I was traumatized within like a chapter. I was like, I was like, I can tell you, I'm not going to, but I can tell you the scenes. And I was like, I don't think adult mystery is for me. I don't think I can do it.
Heather stays
Can
reading
we-
free books and then gets upset when they don't deliver.
Can we go back to that one
traumatized.
comment
That's
where
the issue.
Agent MG17 literally said, like, if you DNF a lot of books, maybe you just can't pick books. Maybe you're bad at picking books.
That was first of all,
No.
don't listen to it. That comment was like an hour ago, so ignore
Yeah.
Nicole. But also, I did actually feel
Still
some
relevant.
pain
Still
when I
relevant.
read that. It's like, not true though. It's not true. You can try new authors if you're like, you know what? If I hate it, it's fine.
Heather, can I ask you a question?
God, yeah.
Be as honest as you can. You know, we know you can't give us 100%, but seriously, the book that you DNF, are most of them like KU or free books? I'm just asking.
No, no.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, obviously my reading is mostly Kindle Unlimited and the library, and that I have mentioned this, that does allow me to DNF more frequently because it's not like I spent $20 on this and I'm really annoyed that I'm not liking it. However, no. If you name a popular book on BookTube, if you name 10 of them, I've probably DNF'd at least one of them. So no.
I wonder, because I was wondering if maybe if maybe the editing is like an issue. Like
It can be. Yeah.
if that
Sometimes
drives you, if you have a particular, and I'm being so serious, no joke, all jokes aside, like if you have a particular how do I put this? Like if you're drawn to, well, clearly you are drawn to particular writing styles, or you wouldn't DNF so damn much. I just answered my own question.
Well, I see this often, right? When people read indie romance or that, sometimes they get nitpicky on editing. And I tend to have a lot of grace when I read indie romance. Not that I don't think they're like not hiring editors. I just think sometimes stuff slips through the cracks. You don't have as many eyes on it as you do in a traditionally published book. So yeah, I think that can definitely be a thing. But I feel like Heather reads so broad. I don't know.
It's just interesting because Heather does DNF so much. What do you like, girl? What do you like?
I feel like some romance though on the trade pub side isn't that great either.
But then watch her actually reading all the books in the 5th season, like the Broken Earth trilogy, and
Oh my gosh.
I knew it. I was about to say, don't bring that up because Heather's about to throw some shade. Okay. Like I knew it was coming.
Ashley has had a lot on her plate. It's okay.
I did.
I didn't get started either.
Jeez. That's all right. I'm gonna message you after this. I'll cuss you out in our personal
I
conversation.
will believe it when I see it. I'm just like, oh, Ashley posted a video. She's alive.
Oh, Heather. Does that mean you really care about me?
I do.
Oh, I care about you too. Even when you don't tell me the truth all the time.
I do tell the truth. It's just like I'm typing in the comments and you're talking faster than I can refute you. And I'm like, no, I'm right.
Oh, man. Has anybody else done this though? Like, I don't think I've done this.
I haven't.
I haven't either. I struggle with certain genres though.
Yeah.
I really do because of writing style. And it's probably why I asked Heather that, because I feel like if I read like adult fantasy as heavy as you do, Bethany, when I know that that's a genre that I struggle in, I probably would DNF more.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I'm accustomed to. Like, I'll try every now and then I could pick up one and I get really, really attached to it and it's good. And I'm like, I can do this. And then I pick up another one. I'm like, heck no, I can't do this. I'm not built for this. So no, I don't.
I think I have a genre actually, kind of. And I will dip my toe in this genre, but it has to be highly recommended by people, and that is literary fiction. It takes a lot for me to pick up literary fiction, especially if it's not by a person of color, because generally speaking, I DNF them and I hate them. Like, I have not touched Sally Rooney. Like, I refuse. I'm like, I'm good. Yeah. And like, I like Britt Bennett a lot, but again, that she doesn't really fit the traditional like lit fic writer. category that you see. So like
Mhm.
it takes a certain, and like I want to read that Church Ladies book y'all were talking about. Like I just marked it as to read. Probably not a book you'd normally see me pick up, but like that's generally the genre I would say that I'll just be like, I'm good. It takes like 10 plus like I need a lot of people to tell me that it's good for me to pick it up.
Yeah, literary fiction reuses the same tropes, and it's old. And if it's something written by a person of color, a BIPOC author, I'm more likely to pick that up. But I don't DNF. DNF certain genre. I read my first romance, y'all.
What was it?
It was The Boyfriend Project. I was like, I was thinking about you, Ashley, because
Yay.
you need to read this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, I read my first romance. Let me text Ashley, and I forgot.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
How'd you forget? You haven't texted me in ages. We haven't texted each other in ages. First,
I know. I have been sick, and like for 2 weeks, I've been sick now.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I did read my first romance, and I was like, Ashley knows. I was like, I don't like romance. I will never read romance.
Was that a good or a bad experience? Because I pushed myself through that book too.
What?
The Boyfriend Project.
I liked it.
I liked it too.
I mean, it wasn't like stellar literature.
No, but
it served its
cute
purpose
cute.
100%.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I think it depends. I think romance is one of those things, though, where it's so much about what you like your preferences, and people have such different tastes. So that in particular, I think it's hard to like say, this is a really good romance book that everybody should read. Like there are very few books that I feel that way about in that genre.
You know what? I'm going to retract that statement a little bit, because I read a cozy mystery and I absolutely hated it. Well, I didn't finish reading it. I DNF'd it and I absolutely hated it. So I can probably safely say that of the mystery subgenre, cozy mysteries would be what I will not pick up.
Interesting.
I think
Not
we
the
did the same
cozies.
book.
Which one did you DNF?
I think we did up the same book.
I don't remember. All I know, I got it at my local used bookstore for $1.50. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it
I think there's a lot of variation in the quality of cozy mysteries.
It was, I think it was, I still have the book somewhere.
It's hard with cozies because after a while they start reading all the same, and I had to take like a year break away from reading cozies because I'm like, I'm tired of reading about some dumb girl who's in her 20s who knows nothing about life, and then she gets with the sexy cop.
For me, I just need to be in the mood, and if I'm not in the mood to read romance or cozy mysteries, I'm not going to read it.
I'm a really hard sell with historical fiction. Like there's certain I just don't like, there are certain authors I like, and like sometimes if something's like an interesting twist on like that I haven't seen before, I might be compelled to like try it. So like one time I read I usually won't read anything set in World War II, but one time I read a book about like female spies in World War II, and that was interesting. But that was like a different narrative than what you usually get. So like historical fiction is always a really hard sell for me. I like literary fiction. It depends. Like I can love it if it's the right thing. Usually Izzy similarly, like usually my favorite literary fiction is also by authors of color. And I really, really like literary takes on genre fiction. So like literary horror, literary fantasy, literary sci-fi. Love it. Like totally my thing.
I think I just like anything that's going to make me depressed.
I think that's true. You're either reading like steamy romance or things that are super depressing.
She's gotta like cut the depression with the sex.
Kind of true.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it's on brand for me.
It is. I can read a couple here and there that are depressing, but I cannot make, if it's not speculative. I can do depressing if it's like sci-fi or fantasy. That's fine. But like contemporary, I have to say it.
It was it February? I had read The Yellow Wife, The Gilded Ones, and what's that book? Buck?
Mm-hmm. Black Buck.
Black Buck. I had read all three of those books back to back, and I was like, I don't like life. My life is in danger right now. Like, I don't know why. All of it was traumatizing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask.
Yes, sorry, this is anthologies. The Bloody Chamber is amazing. One of my favorite books read this year. This is also an anthology. Good call, Beth. Yes. Great.
I like historical fiction. I just don't like historical romance. Like, I like historical fiction. I'll read historical fantasy. Historical romance, I can't do.
See, I'm the opposite. I love historical romance, but historical fiction, no, thank you. But yeah,
there's some nasty historical romance out there that I just be getting down with. And I was shocked because I didn't read my first historical romance until, was it last year, Bethany? I think I read, what's the lady's name? Oh gosh, it's the ones that are based on like 80s movies.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're so good.
Eva Lee.
Izzy.
Yeah, I've read those and I was like, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Down like that in our corsets. All right.
Look, those are good. They're like the people who hate them though, hate them because they're not like historically accurate, but that's not the point. It's the vibe. That's what I want. I want like modern sensibilities with the historical setting and clothes and vibe. That's what I want in my historical romance.
No, I feel like those are written for those of us who enjoy dressing up and role playing.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah, pretty much.
That one Vanessa Riley series, though, almost put me in a reading slump. That I think it was like the lady and a baby or something like that.
I like
that one. Was dry.
I couldn't read it. It was dry. I agree, Vina. I can't.
Oh, so really question. Since Vina brought up series, have you ever, I'm pretty sure we all have, I'm hypothesizing this, but read or started a series and then DNF'd the rest of the series?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Frequently.
Honestly, like, for me, it's your job to keep my attention. If you're not keeping my attention, that's fine. You're keeping other readers' attention. Like, you don't have to go based on just me, but I have to go based on just me. And if I don't care, then I don't care. I'm done.
Heather, I would have loved to have you as a friend growing up.
I was so quiet. Like, I don't even know what. I would have given nothing. I would have just been there.
I was really trying to, I do read a lot of series, and I was trying to just think, like, have I not, like, or DNF'd a series? And I did. It was actually a cozy mystery series. Oh, it was the Hannah Swenson series by Joanne Fluke.
Nicole's the only reason I picked back up cozies, to be honest, with her little book club, because I was off of cozies for like a year because I'm like, they're reading the same, and I'm tired of the main character being an idiot.
That's fair.
They do. They are formulaic. They very much are.
Wait, Nicole, why did you DNF Joanna Fluke stuff?
Because some of the choices that the main character was making,
for 5 men.
Yeah,
don't do that, y'all. I'm on like book 5.
Oh no,
that's the book I stopped at. I think
doesn't it have like 20 books in that series?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh yeah, like 30
She's
or
still
something.
yeah, she's still writing them. Yeah.
I just didn't like the fact how she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date these two men, but then when she sees one of these men on a date with another woman, she's like, oh, I don't like that. I was like, it wasn't even a date, they were just friends, first of all.
Oh
Like, how
no.
can you have that
Oh,
kind of
no.
double standard? I was done. I was like, nope, we're done with you.
Dang it, y'all.
Yeah.
Dang it.
I have no problem DNFing series because I start so many series and like sometimes I'm like, I liked the first book fine. I don't care like if I don't care that much what happens next or I'm disappointed with the direction it's going, I just won't finish the series. Because I read so many series. I don't, it's fine.
And the reason why I asked that question, other than the fact that Vina brought it up, is that I just read, what's that book? I should know it because I just read it for Black Aweenathon. And I put it in my wrap up.
Erica, not you being like a patron.
Was it the Year of the Witching? Because you said
the Year of the
that
Witching
one.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, it was originally written as a standalone.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but there were things that I didn't. And part of it is like, I want to know, I feel like I don't want to continue with the series. But part of me wants to. So I don't know.
We can read it and tell you what happened.
Yeah.
What? You can read it and tell me what happens?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I'll probably read it. I loved Year of the Witching. It was my favorite book of last year. But I do feel like the ending of it is really satisfying. So like I'm not feeling anxious about needing book 2 because it was written as a standalone that I think has a satisfying ending. But I will read it because I liked the first one and I'm curious to see, you know.
I think she has really good potential as a writer.
I agree.
I really do.
I loved it, but I feel like a lot of the Christianity stuff, like, because even when I was discussing it for somebody's live, I'm like, a lot of this went over people's heads if you don't know, like, a lot of stuff about the Bible.
That's true.
That's true.
It's very, that's probably why I loved it so much is because, like, I have a history of, like...
Yeah, I have a deep history, so I'm like, oh, well, I see what she was talking about here, and here.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't like it.
Oh.
And I mean, and my dad's a minister. I grew up in the church, you know, so.
I did too. But I think, like, it came to me in a time where I'm kind of like, deconstructing all of my history with the church. So that's interesting. Okay, I think this is an interesting question. If you're hosting a book club or a read along and you don't enjoy it, will you DNF?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
I won't. If I'm hosting, no, I'll finish it.
I won't
I mean,
DNF if I'm supposed to be on a live show.
Yeah. Poor Bethany has caught my tail end of that for the past couple of things that we were supposed to do together.
I mean, I feel like it depends on how far I am when I want to DNF it too for this. If I'm like halfway, I might push through. Or if it's an audio, I might push through to do the live still. But if I feel like at 50% I got enough to go on the live and be like, this is what I hated, absolutely.
That's fair. I think
who's talking about?
Oh yeah, just that, like, I also feel differently about, like, hosting versus being on something. Like, I'll still probably try to finish something if I'm on something, but especially if, like, I'm hosting it on my channel, I do feel like a responsibility. Well, and same with, like, stuff for, like, my Patreon book club too. Like, I'll finish that even if I'm not loving the book because, like people are paying me to have a book club and, like, discuss stuff. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't know.
I think in my book club career, I've only DNF'd one of my book club reads. But I'd say I feel the same way. Like, I feel like if I'm hosting it, if I'm gonna be there and, like, people are, you know, they're counting on me basically to, you know, have input in a live, I will do my best. 9 times out of 10 read it.
You have a lot of book clubs, Nicole.
True story.
Yeah, I do.
She overwhelms me every time. I'm like, wait, how many? Nope.
Every time I go on YouTube, she's live.
That's true.
I feel like
Book club
I feel
pick
like
of the
I don't-
week, not the month. The week.
So she picks authors she likes, so she's more likely to finish them versus picking like a random book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I feel like
agree.
I don't have a lot of book clubs. I read often for my book clubs. I don't know.
You have like 3 book clubs every month.
Not Heather over there getting salty. Nicole, roaster.
You got
Roaster,
you
Nicole.
got
Roaster.
your Joanne Lindsay one, right? Is that the right
Roaster.
author? You have the one with Bree, that's the Rick Riordan, the Uncle Rick read
Uncle Rick,
along.
yeah.
And then you have your late night.
But I
I
feel
have
like
4.
That's
my
3.
late night, and when I mostly read Julie and Lindsay books, that's just like one book club. That's just the one. Who picked this book club?
No, they're not.
Ask Heather-
I'm only in one of them.
Ask Heather
I
why.
have
You can
my
join
own
the other
thing.
one, Heather. I don't know why you
Ask
don't
Heather
show
why
up.
she's checking for you.
You
Why
can
is Heather
sign up
over
for
there?
the other one. There's a whole
You
thing in
can.
her sheet. Like, it's great. I've done it.
Is
You
it
can sign
not
up.
a series, like an ongoing, never
Cozy
ending
mystery. Just
thing?
jump
I
in.
don't. I like barely watch them because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. But then sometimes I
We
show
read
up
more
because I
than
love Nicole.
cozies. We read a really crappy witch book.
No, but the one that she doesn't go into is the one that's cozy mystery. You don't have to read those in order, so just jump in.
You,
Oh.
you technically
Oh,
don't
there you
have
go,
to. You
Vina.
could
Hey,
just
Vina
romance
Vina.
is kind of that way too.
All right.
Hey.
I'm not jumping into book 18 of the will they, won't they, slow burn, not really their romance, but they're in every book.
her series are not that long, first of all, but it does drive me crazy that they will only kiss in book 3. I do get irritated about that.
Fair.
But she writes cozies and romantic suspense, so. But
I think I have like 4 book clubs right now.
My goodness.
Because I have my Patreon book club, Blades and Bodice Rippers book club. I'm doing the Broken Earth trilogy read along and the Lord of the Rings read along. So
Y'all doing a lot.
Y'all doing too much. I cannot.
Yeah, I cannot either. Izzy, me and you on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
That much
Yeah,
structure in my reading life sounds like a disaster. Sounds like me speed reading 3 books in a day because I'm like, I'm behind.
I'm
I have
lucky
Spoon
to get a
Sisters
book
too. Yeah,
done
we only meet
a
monthly
week.
though.
I'm lucky to get a book done a week now.
I feel that energy.
Mhm.
I do. I feel that energy seriously.
I'm at the point where I'm either finishing like 2 books a day or I'm not reading.
2 books
It's
a
very
day.
weird.
Oh man.
I mean,
It's a
I'm
book a
always in
day
the
or I
middle.
don't read anything.
I feel like I'm always in the middle of like several books, and then I'll finish them like dominoes. Like I think I'm reading like 6 books right now, but
I feel bad about the ones that I added to Goodreads when I was like 20%, and then like at 22%, I have to DNF,
It'd be like that sometimes.
and then a bunch of people already liked it that you were reading it. Are looking forward to your review.
Oh yeah, when people comment, I'm
oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to your review of this book, and I'm like,
and I'm like,
damn.
dang. Well, or when people comment like, "Oh, I love that so much," and you're like,
Me with half of Ashley's picks this year.
Listen, we just have been on completely 2 different paths this year with our picks. All right, like I just feel like deep in my soul, you are a harsher critic than me. I give a little bit more leniency.
I think that's true. I
think-
love why reading your reviews, but like,
Very true.
that's very
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Vina be going hard in the paint every time I read her reviews. I'm like, dang. And I just try to give some grace. Like when we were messaging about Blackout, you told me your rating. I was like, I mean, I really should. I was nice by giving it 3 stars.
You were nice though.
Yeah,
I feel
Vina
like,
said, nah, that was 2 stars. Honestly, like it was trash.
but also I feel like I grew up reading a lot of Black YA, whereas
Yeah.
even a lot of these writers did not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was reading stuff better than this back in 2006. So
yeah.
I'm not gonna give you a high rating just because you featured Black romance. That's not new. I've been reading that for years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
yeah.
I watched a video of Vina's where I can't remember, it was a recent one where you were talking about some books that you had just read, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, man. Vina be going in all the way in.
But people expect that who follow me. They're just like, well, now I know what to expect going into the book because you said this.
Yeah.
And Deidre didn't believe me at first about Blackout. And then she's like, I thought you were just having a bad day. You were right.
But then, Deidre texted me.
Yeah.
Deidre texted me. She's like, you read Blackout yet? And I was like, nah. She's like, when you finish it, let me know. And I was like, whenever Deidre texts me something like that, it's never a good sign. And then you and I had been talking about it. I was like, this is not going to be good.
Okay, this is interesting. How do you guys handle indie books? Like, this is an interesting comment of like not cutting it extra slack. I actually probably do. Like, I'm probably like not dramatically, but like slightly more generous with indie books because I know they don't have like a whole team behind them. So like I'll give, like I might, but usually it's something like a half-star difference. Like I won't dramatically affect things, but I might give them a little more benefit of the doubt. How about
I give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt as well because of the fact that I know that with something that's been traditionally published, especially by a major publishing house, they have an editing team in the background. And these are books that go through countless edits. It's not just like a first wave of edits and then the book is published. So I think that while I do, like Bethany, like while I do ease up, it's not anything where it's like, oh yeah, it really technically is a 3-star read, but because it's indie, I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Like, it's not like that. But I do know that even if I've paid for it, honestly, getting their work out there, like they may not have the amount of people who can go through and correct stuff or read through it or whatever the case may be.
Does it depend on the type of indie for you? Like if it's self-published versus like one of those smaller publishers?
That's a good question.
I think for me, like I'm considering this more as self-published. Like I just read Ace Black Sapphic that I loved. It had a couple small errors, nothing major. Like their second release ever, first under this pen name, and I'm like, that's fine. Like a couple small errors happens. Like no matter how many times you have something read it to you, like how many times you turn it up paper and you had, like I feel like this is just human nature. Like you're going to miss stuff. And yeah, so like I feel like it'd be a half a star bump at most for that stuff, but also I just have a different expectation when I go into indies. I'm not expecting I don't expect perfection from any book personally. Like I just feel like stuff slips through, like it's unavoidable. I have worked as like a project manager on creative projects with like blocks of copy and teams looking at it, and we have come out of it and found an error after it went to print. Like it can happen.
Yeah.
No matter how detail oriented you are. So I think I have a lot of grace for it because I just know how much that sucks when you find it. But like also I worry sometimes about Amazon not pushing the updates for the book. Because I've had that before in my Kindle library where it's like you can update this book and like I'll click it and it won't like process. So I just try to be like, maybe a slightly wrong file got uploaded for their KDP or that, and just give them like I said, not going to give them like if it was a 3-star book, I'm not giving it 5 stars. Maybe it's a 3.5 though, and not a 3.
Yeah, I would say I'm less lenient with traditionally published books. And if for indie published, either by a small publishing house, I'll be like the grace, like a half-star grace, probably. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't change my reading for like typos or mistakes at all. If a book was 5 stars and they used the wrong form of your in one spot and it had the wrong word in one spot, like I'm not changing my rating for that. If they don't know the uses of your, then that's bad writing. That's not a typo. But one instance isn't going to change my rating. And yeah, I do see a lot of typos in indies. Not a ton, but I read them literally constantly. So I do see it often. But, they have all of those things where it's like, here's the sentence. Oh, you read that sentence wrong because your eye tells you what you expect to see, right? And when you are editing, I'm not right there. When you are editing what you wrote yourself, you already know where it's going and you see what you expect to see. So obviously, if you're doing your own edits, there are going to be things that you're going to miss. I'm just going to assume that. And like everybody said, traditional publishing, also, you can find a mistake. So I give grace for that. And honestly, let me take my moment to advocate for indie authors, because traditional publishing, it's like the idea and the execution, all of it has to pass an entire committee, right? Which means you're going to get more generic, more watered down, more this will appeal to literally millions of people, hopefully. And we're not going to offend half of them. Whereas indies can be like, this is what I want to write. This is how I want to write it. And this is who I'm writing for. And if those are the only people who read my book, I'm fine with that. And I can write it exactly how I want them to read it. And so you get a lot more creativity, not necessarily because indie authors are more creative than traditional authors, but just because they are allowed the freedom to do whatever they want. If you want to read about a death moth fairy sleeping with a succubus and doing different kinks every 2 page, you can.
I also want to note that it's also very important on that statement of like knocking indie books for things, is that like you need to be sure you're actually knocking them for like not for like actual issues with that. Like maybe there are a pile of typos and not like AAVE or lingo use that you don't know, because that's I feel like it gets so dicey there, because like I mean I see it where people are like blah 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 and I'm like, what? Like, do you have no friends that talk like okay? But you know, like I think that's another thing to keep in mind there too. Sometimes people start knocking stars for things that, you know, in Spanish even like they'll be like there's this in here and I don't like whatever, they think it's wrong and I'm like, but it's not wrong.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of thing isn't usually what affects my rating. It's like usually other things. But I do know people who that bugs them a lot.
Yeah, the last indie book that I rated really, really badly was like a fantasy. It was a YA fantasy I read last year, and actually the author sent it directly to me, so I felt kind of bad that I had to rate it so badly.
Oh,
But
yeah.
she got stuff about her own culture wrong. Like, it was about Jamaican culture, and I'm like, I'm not even Jamaican, but I've been around it enough to know that all the patois she put in it was wrong. And there were like, she had them listening to reggaeton in the Jamaican restaurant, and I'm like, what? And these like little things, and she just had talked in like a interview about having used like a phrase book to help her figure some of this out, and I'm like, well, whatever book you were using, it was wrong. And just like the writing style in general, it felt like elementary school, like something I would read in elementary school back in the late 90s versus a book that was published in 2020, so I had to go hard on that one. But that wasn't self-published either. It was like a smaller indie publisher, so she had some other people look at it.
That's a good point. I also will give more grace to books that were written a long time ago versus things written now. Like, because there's stuff that I'm like, okay, this is messed up, but we weren't having those conversations 20 years ago.
I literally just threw a book
1,000,000%.
out that had a slur on the back cover of it when I was unhauling books today, and I was like, that's not going in the little free library or anywhere. I was like, that goes right in the recycling bin.
I was already there. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. There's like I know I'm so behind on comments. I'm trying to like look through them. Okay. And oh wow. Okay, we've been talking for like almost 2 hours. So like anything else y'all want to touch on before we end? Like I don't want to keep you here for super long. So, this is fun though. Other anything else about DNFing, or if somebody saw anything in the comments that's like, oh, okay, like we've kind of talked about this, I feel like. So yeah, Tia, if you go back, we did talk about this earlier.
Someone mentioned earlier, way earlier in the comments, and I bring it up, but then we got sidetracked. And someone said that DNFing is self-care. And I wanted, before we leave, I wanted to touch on that because, like Ashley said, that you read Black Book and The Yellow Wife and another book, and you were just like, you wanted to be done. I think that when we're reading and a book brings us down, like mentally and emotionally, it's not necessarily that it's a bad book. It may just be something that we in that moment are not in the headspace for. So we have to be cognizant of where we are at that moment and be willing to say, okay, I'm going to put it down, pick it up later, and see, where I am later.
Yeah, like no book is so important where you're going to be triggering yourself, or you're like, you bring yourself to a point where, you have any kind of, either post-traumatic stress or bring yourself down into your depression. Like no book is that important.
I agree.
100%. I mean, I think when we did that initial combo, I forgot there was a book I literally DNF'd, I think 10% in or less, because it was triggering my eating disorder. And I was like, we're out. We can't do this. Like, it's absolutely, like, life is too short to read books that like make you go into that place like constantly if it's like really, really bringing you down to a bad spot.
B, I agree with this. I do think they're two different things. Like, and I don't know if about everybody else, but like if I like hard DNF something, I'm putting a review on Goodreads personally. Whereas putting a book down that I might pick up later, I'll do that and I just won't talk about it.
I keep a separate shelf called Paused that I go to occasionally and see if I want to pick anything back up from it before I like push it back either off my TBR or DNF shelf.
I just leave it as a DNF, even if I'm like, I think I might come back to this at some point. One, it's rare. Two, I almost never really, really enjoy books that I had originally DNF'd. Like they might be okay, but I can't think of a single instance where I DNF'd it and then I ended up absolutely loving it when I picked it back up. But for me, if I were to have as paused or any of those things, for me, it's still a to-do hanging over my head. And that kind of defeats the purpose of DNFing it for me. I want to be done with it. It's no longer something that I'm trying to get to. And with the mental health stuff, I read romance because I don't like being sad or stressed or angry by my hobby. And there are plenty of romances that are gut-wrenching, and I skip those. I avoid them like the plague. I will read a book that is really emotional on accident. Like if you have already hooked me, I'm not leaving the book because I'm now crying or angry or whatever. But I'm not going to pick up a book that I know is really sad or emotional. But like obviously the more serious things where it's like literally mental health condition, I could mess everything up by continuing down this path. Yeah, but like if you're just like, I don't feel like being sad today or stressed, like literally you're writing the killer too good and I'm like fearful over here, you can bounce. It doesn't matter. Like just keep going. You can okay. I've told you guys this, some of you this before. Sometimes I will get really mad at my husband for something. I shouldn't say really mad at my husband. I will get very irritated with my husband because the hero in my book is pushing my last button. I'm like, men are trash right now. Don't speak to me. Actually, I'm not happy until this fictional man gets his act back together. And then we can talk if you are still speaking to me tonight. Because right now, don't speak to me. I'm trying to read this. This person has already put me all the way up here. You are trying to put me up here. I'm already here. Leave me alone. So, I avoid that. I do. Yeah.
That's like getting mad at your husband for something he did in a dream.
It is the exact same energy.
Yeah, except it's not even his face. It's a completely random person and a vampire or whatever.
Yeah.
I think next time I'm mad at a hero in a book, I'm just going to tell Heather I'm mad at her.
So funny. Yeah, Jasmine, I'll just say this is a thing he did a lot in his older books. So I would recommend sticking to his newer books if that's not a thing you want to read, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah, lots of slurs in his books.
Yeah. I don't think he does that really now so much, but
I think I haven't read Stephen King in forever, but his earlier works are definitely problematic all the way around.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at about 2 hours, and so I think I'm gonna call it at this point. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Hopefully this has been interesting for people. I don't know if people have anything coming up that they want to plug. I briefly do want to say, while I have everyone here, if you are starting to do holiday shopping and you want to support small businesses, Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time on my channel, I'm doing a live stream where I'm bringing in bookish content creators who also have Etsy shops and small businesses. We're gonna do a holiday party thing, talk about holiday romances, and also let them kind of show you some of the stuff they have and talk about some of our favorite small shops. So if you're looking to support small businesses as you're thinking to buy gifts for people for the holidays, come join us on Saturday. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, that's my next big thing. But if anybody has anything, I don't know if you do, but just wanted to open it up.
On Ashley's channel, talking about Saga.
Oh, damn. Yes.
She said, "Oh yes, I am doing that."
Y'all, please forgive me. I really am sick, even though I have been sick. We are discussing the first 2 volumes of Saga on my channel on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. EST. Thank you, Izzy. I appreciate you.
I was like, I have something else happening this week. What is it? And I went and checked my calendar. I was like, oh, that's right. It's with Ashley.
And Ashley, send me the StreamYard link.
Okay, you gonna hop in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot.
All right. Cool. Anybody else or no? Nicole, you look like you have no. Okay.
Nicole, you don't have anything coming up this month? You always have something.
Nicole's like, I'm not telling you about my 20 book clubs.
No book club? Got a book club?
Yes. I have book club every Wednesday, and we're continuing Uncle Rick's read along next Tuesday. Yeah, we have things.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you don't already follow everybody, they're all linked in the video description. Thanks guys. This was really fun. I'm glad everyone could join me. Hope you all had a good time. Have a great night. And we will see you later. I guess also Friday night. I'm doing a lot of lives this week. Friday night is the discussion for Return of the King. So if you're following along with the Lord of the Rings read along, Friday night is that discussion. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.